Good morning, welcome to CATEX TV. My name is Frank Fortunato. Today is Thursday, August 13th, 2015. If you want to follow us on Twitter, go to CATEX TV. Yesterday afternoon, news came in that a series of massive explosions had occurred at the port of Tianjin, about 70 miles east of Beijing. The blasts were at a warehouse for hazardous chemicals. They killed at least 50 people. They turned nearby buildings into skeletal shells. They raised numerous questions today about whether the materials had been properly stored. About 12 or 15 of the dead apparently are from the 1,000 or so firefighters that were sent to the scene. The municipal government in Tianjin said that 701 people were injured and another 70 are in the hospital. The blast was so strong that it triggered a 3.0 reading on local seismometers, so 3.0 on the Richter scale. There was no indication as to what caused the blasts and no immediate sign of any toxic cloud in the air. State media, of course, said that senior management at the company where the blast originated have been detained already, and the president of China, Xi Jinping, has demanded severe punishment for anyone found responsible for the explosions. In light of the sensitivity over the hazardous materials stored at the warehouse, the state broadcaster went into a live broadcast of a news conference in Tianjin, where the head of the municipality's Environmental Protection Service was speaking. He said there had been no apparent impact on air monitoring stations, but that water samples were still being examined. But when a reporter asked him whether the chemicals at the warehouse had been stored far enough away from residents in the area, the broadcaster suddenly cut away from the news conference, only to return at a later time. Authorities said that the blast started at a shipping container warehouse owned by Ruhai Logistics, a company that says it stores hazardous materials, among other things, sodium cyanide at the area. The initial blast triggered an even bigger one. The National Earthquake Bureau said the first blast was the equivalent of 3 tons of dynamite. The second blast was equivalent to 21 tons of dynamite. The explosions that sent the fireballs through the Tianjin port have disrupted the flow of cars, oil, iron ore, and other items. Tianjin is the world's 10th largest port. Volkswagen said that 1,000 new cars had been torched. The Maritime Administration said that ships carrying oil and hazardous products have now been barred from the port for today at least, and all vessels are being prohibited from entering the central port zone. BHP Billiton said that the blast disrupted iron ore shipments. A researcher at ICIS China, Sean Liu, said that if the government imposes stricter supply chain safety standards, it will raise costs in China's energy and petrochemicals industry. An Indian court has overturned yesterday's ban on Nestle's hugely popular Maggi noodles brand, but ordered further tests before the noodles can be sold again. According to the court, they said that we've examined the evidence in great detail, and we see no reason to allow any relief to the food authorities, i.e. the Safety Commission. We direct Nestle's to send 5 samples from each batch of Maggi noodles for testing to 3 labs. And only if the lead level is found to be lower than permitted will they start manufacturing and selling again. Yesterday, the Indian Consumer Commission said that it was seeking damages of nearly $100 million from Nestle. The American regulator, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, said earlier today that their own tests show that the lead level in the popular instant food was within acceptable levels for U.S. consumers. A refrigerated truck packed with explosives exploded in Sadr City, a suburb of Iraq today, killing at least 60 people. Sadr City is a Shia stronghold, and the blast undoubtedly was from Sunni militants. Standard & Poor's is questioning the capital adequacy of the insurance and reinsurance operations of Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. That's pretty amazing in itself. This is due to concerns over the financing of the recently announced acquisition of Precision Castparts Corporation. Berkshire Hathaway has announced that it's acquiring Precision for about $37 billion. It's a significant sum for an acquisition and the biggest takeover in Buffett's long career. Given the sum involved, the ratings agency is concerned about the effects it could have on Buffett's insurance and reinsurance operations. S&P explained that it believes that in order to fund the acquisition of Precision, Berkshire Hathaway will have to use some of the cash reserves at its insurance and reinsurance operations. Currently, Mr. Buffett has cash reserves of about $85 billion. However, according to Standard & Poor's, were the cash outlay for Precision Castparts to coincide with a series of massive insurance and reinsurance industry losses, perhaps the outlook for Berkshire Hathaway could worsen significantly. It noted that some of the exposures Berkshire's reinsurance group has assumed over the years could have enormous liabilities attached under the worst-case scenarios, making that cash all the more important to have. Standard & Poor's says it expects the update or the resolution of its credit watch on Berkshire Hathaway to be resolved within the next 90 days at the latest, following discussions with the company. The Italian company Exor, that recently won the bidding war for Bermuda's PartnerRe, has now bought a $448 million stake in the British business magazine The Economist. The Economist has been edited and operating in London since 1843, has a circulation of about 1.6 million. Exor, controlled by the Agnelli family, became the largest shareholder in The Economist after the former owners, Pearson, sold half of its 172-year-old publication for $730 million. So Exor's stake went from 4.7% to 43.4%. Well, we're now about halfway through the hurricane season, and so far not a single hurricane has formed. It's a testament, apparently, to the intensity of the strengthening El Nino in the tropical Pacific. Despite having already seen only 3 named storms this season, Anna, Bill, and Claudette, they've only lasted for a combined 5.5 days. None of those storms reached hurricane status. To date, this year is running at just 37% of the average in terms of accumulated cyclone energy, and there hasn't been a single year without a hurricane since the launching of weather satellites into space in the 1960s at this late date. What's been driving this absence of a hurricane apparently are 2 things. The air's moisture content or humidity has been very low in the areas where hurricanes form, the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean Sea, as well as in the central tropical Atlantic. And also, as Bill Gray at Colorado State pointed out in the 1980s, the effects of El Nino, the Pacific system, on hurricanes is in fact having its manifestation this year in a very big way. El Nino effects continue to be very strong this year, and they're suppressing Atlantic hurricane activity. In fact, the National Weather Service just released a forecast calling for a 90% probability of a below normal season. It's the highest confidence forecast for a below normal season that the agency has ever issued since forecasts began in 1998. Of course, the problem with these sorts of things is that once you start talking like this, a hurricane comes. That's the news for today. If we have any breaking news, we'll come back and tell you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.